Good afternoon or good morning for some of you. Welcome to Boston. I'm Jos Scheffelaar. I'm the chairman of the NAF Boston, the Boston chapter of the NAF. We have about 25, 30 people here in the room. Not all of you may know the NAF, the Netherlands America Foundation. The NAF sponsors Fulbright scholarships for Dutch students to study in the US and American students to study in the Netherlands. We also support like cultural events. What we do here in Boston is we support the goals of the parent organization, and we also organize events for the Dutch community here in Boston. And this is basically one of these events. The reason for doing this event is really because I'm at a pension or retirement age, although I haven't retired yet. But it's so I tried to get the payment started from the AOW, the AOW from the Netherlands. And I just was completely confused, and it's a very complex system. And so I happened to be talking to friends at the Dutch embassy in Washington, and they arranged these gentlemen to come over. Unfortunately, they could only come to Boston. They're on their way back to the Netherlands. And so that's why we are streaming this event to the US, to the rest of the US. It's the first time we stream, so there may be it may not be totally professional, but we hope you'll enjoy it. If you have any questions, please email them to events@thenafboston.org. Even if you didn't get that when we present the slides or during the presentation, it will be in view. The gentleman who will answer the questions is sitting here behind me, so you know where your questions will be going. Stay on topic, so it's AOW payments and not general pension and tax questions. The team will answer as many questions as they can, but they will stay away from questions that are purely personal and really like exception cases. We also, if you have any questions related to U.S. taxes, we have Maria van der Mos here, whom you can't see right now, but you will see her later. And so she will be asking questions about the impact of AOW payments on U.S. taxes. So next, I'll ask the team of the Sociale Verzekeringsbank to introduce themselves, and I hope you have a good event.
We begin with the most important man here on my left-hand side.
Thank you very much. My name is Hilbert Elskamp. I'll be checking on all the emails that arrive. Preferably, we'll be able to answer them during our presentation. Otherwise, I'll answer them later on through the mail. I'm part of the unit verification unit international. So we go around visiting people that receive money from the government living abroad, and try to inform them of their rights and entitlement to AOW. Now, I pass them on to you.
Yep.
Hello, my name is Leon ten Bargen. I'm the team coach of the team Hilbert is also a member of. Besides that, we give information about the AOW. Our main purpose and of our team is to verify and see if the legitimacy of our payments is okay. We do that not only in the United States, but also in other countries.
And my name is Maarten van Zeeben. The three of us work for the Sociale Verzekeringsbank, the social insurance bank, and I'm responsible for the international network. And we'd like to thank the NAF for your hospitality here and giving us a chance to reach out to future claimants here in the US and answer all questions you have.
We will do that by kind of interview. So I'm going to interview Martin on this presentation. So you'll be hearing both of us. And I think we will have to start with exactly what does SVB stand for? And what kind of organization is it, Martin?
As I told you, in English we're called a social insurance bank, but in fact we're not a bank. We are a social security organization, and you could compare us with the Social Security Administration. And we have a very close partnership with them since our bilateral social security agreement between our two countries became into force in November 1990. We as Social Insurance Bank are responsible for many laws which deal with social security, but the most important ones are our old age pension, AOW, survivors pensions, and child benefits. But this afternoon we will focus on old age pensions. Do know that we're not going to literally repeat all the slides. Do also know that all this information you can also see it on www.svb.nl on our website.
Okay, Martin. I understand the SVB has not only one office in the Netherlands, but a few. Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, that's in fact the next slide, Martin. It's Martin and Martin over there. The next slide shows that compared to the US, we're just very, very small. Our head office is in Amstelveen, and we have 9 offices throughout in fact 10, throughout the country. And perhaps the office you're going to deal with is our office in Groningen. Groningen, very nice Dutch word, up north. And they deal with clients living in the United States. So if you apply for a pension, then at the end, you apply for it with Social Security Administration, but at the end, the application will be forwarded to our office in Groningen.
Okay. Could you give us an idea of how many beneficiaries there are in the United States?
Yeah. You're not the only. You won't be the only one. We already have here about more than 16,000 beneficiaries living in the United States. As you can imagine, those were immigrants who came here. Most of them came here in the 60s, 70s, and we pay out more than 4 million euros every month to those beneficiaries. We have also, as I mentioned, survivors benefits, but the criteria to receive a survivor's benefit are so strict that we only have left 24 people who receive a survivor's benefit. And also we have child benefits. You should be aware that apart from diplomats, people, for instance, the people who work in Washington at our embassy come here with their children, they are entitled to child benefit. But in fact, you have to be insured in the Netherlands to be entitled to child benefit for children who live in the United States, who live or study in the United States. And as I mentioned here, we believe, and that's the main reason we are here, is that we believe that a lot of people don't realize that they could be entitled to an old age pension because they lived or worked in the Netherlands.
It looks like this sounds like a little bit of Sinterklaas coming over to the United States. Yeah. So we're trying to even move up the amount of beneficiaries here by doing this today. Could you tell us something about the pension system in the Netherlands more in general?
Yeah, this is a slide, and then the next slide shows you, and that differs, I think, but you can correct me on that, that the system in the Netherlands differs a bit from the system in the United States. As I think I'm correct, that here you have to work to be entitled to a pension, a state pension. In the Netherlands, what we call our first pillar, that is the AOW pension. You either live in the Netherlands, so you are a resident of the Netherlands, or you work in the Netherlands. If you work, you pay contributions, but if you live in the Netherlands and you don't work, you don't pay any contributions, but you're still insured. The second pillar is when you're an employee. Then you're also entitled to an employee. You're part of you're a member of a pension fund. So apart from your AOW, when you reach the pensionable age, you also receive money from the pension fund. And then we have the third pillar. Those are private savings. You have to do it all by yourself. So they're the three-pillar system, and I think here in the States you have a two-pillar system. I think, yeah, mostly, yeah.
Well, it's a bit confusing to me because I hear that a lot of people also have difficulties in getting their second pillar pension, which we are not going to talk about anyway. But could you explain how to do that?
It's. I give the microphone to. Het is echt kwik en kwak hier, ja.
Well, actually, there was a question coming in through the mail concerning this. Somebody asked whether there's a registration of all the employers that you've had in the Netherlands, also summer jobs and part-time jobs. As far as full-time jobs and part-time jobs, they're registered. The summer jobs and odd jobs are not being registered and are not really contributing to insurance. If you want to check whether you've built up any rights in the Netherlands, you can check on the internet at mijnpensioenoverzicht.nl, or you can call them at 020-751-2870 from 8:30 up until 5 o'clock at work days. Dutch time. All right. Back to you, Martin.
I see a question.
Yeah, I went through that site recently, and the first stumbling block there is, I think, a common one, the SBN number.
PSN number.
Or the digital ID.
Oh, yeah.
Those are the things we're going to trip over. I have a hard time.
Okay, we get a question here from a gentleman who asks us, I went to that site of forgotten pensions as an employee, and you say, first of all, I have to give my BSN, our civil service number. That's our unique, that used to be our social fiscal number, it's now a civil service number. And without a civil service number, I can't enter the website. I don't know. Good question, because apart from that, you can enter it with your DigiD. We'll come to that later on. Which is the same problem. So I would suggest that we'll make a note of this question because I don't know the answer right now.
Half funny, but if you ask any Dutch person, how do I get the number? They say, open your passport and the SOFI number is there, but not on my passport.
Oh,
Just apply for a passport, and supposedly it's on the back of the hard page, or there's no number.
okay.
So the question is, we take this PSL number.
Okay, well,
If you don't have a PSL number, you cannot apply for benefits.
okay. Well, I'm sure that you can apply for an AOW pension without a BSN number, but to get information about employees' pension fund earnings, you would need a BSN number, and we just heard from the audience that in general you could find it in your passport, but there are here two cases where this number can't be found. And the lady also has three more questions, yeah? Okay. Okay, the lady. Yeah. Well, I would suggest, sorry to interrupt you, because we're streaming also, and perhaps for the rest of the country, what we'll do, I think Hilbert is already quite busy searching how to get your BSN number, so we'll come back to that later. Is that okay? Yeah? Okay.
Normally, if you apply for an AOW pension and you will be receiving the pension, and you don't have you never had a BSN in the past, then the SVB before the first payment is made will inform the tax office, and the tax office will give you a BSN, because otherwise we can't even register you in our system. But if there's not yet a payment, I think you are right that it's far more difficult to get the BSN number. So the BSN is something you get from the tax office if you didn't have it in the past. And every person who is now born in the Netherlands gets it automatically.
I think we move over to the next slide, and then certainly Leon would have asked me.
Tell me something about. Yeah. Tell me something about the basics of the AOW. Yeah.
Exactly. Probably you will know that our government is increasing the pensionable age. Huh? So in the past, we could easily say if you are insured between your 15th and 56th birthday, a total of 50 years, you get a full amount of an AOW pension. Nowadays, we say you have, okay, what's your pensionable age? And in 2022, it will be 67. So then you have 50 insured age between your 17th birthday and 67. So for every year you are insured in the Netherlands, you receive a part of the AOW pension at 2%. So each year of insurance, and remember, each year that you lived in the Netherlands, because when you're 17, in general, you're still in school, you're not working, but you are insured. Even later, when you started to study in the Netherlands, you're insured, even if you don't pay contributions. If you never pay contributions, you're still insured. That's part of the idea of our social security system. So be aware of that.
And you can calculate this pensionable age somewhere?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. I'm not going to explain it to you because you can look at it on our website, svb.nl. It's very easy. His website is in 7 languages and, of course, in English. And you go to the website, you fill in your date of birth, and then it automatically says, okay, you'll be entitled to an AOW pension from the age of, well, whatever, 66, 67. And you know, in 2022, it will be 67. And then our government will see if they're going to increase the AOW, the pension age, even more. And then it's dependable on the life expectancy. So if we all become 100, perhaps the pensionable age become 80. I don't hope so. Otherwise, I will never get one. As I already told you, you're insured in the Netherlands either when you live in the Netherlands or you work in the Netherlands. And here's an example. Living abroad, we have a lot of people living in our neighbor countries like Germany or Belgium. They work in the Netherlands. They pay taxes. They pay contributions over their income. They are insured in the Netherlands for AOW pension. Next slide, I think.
You explained that it wasn't a work-related pension, the AOW, but how could I calculate my amount to be expected?
Well, I don't think, is that the next slide? I don't know, it's a little bit later.
On what rate it's based?
Oh, okay, you mean I earn money, and then it's a certain percentage of, I think it's now about 17% of your earnings. You pay AOW contributions, but it has a ceiling. It's not that if you earn $1 million, you pay a huge amount of it has a ceiling, and that ceiling is at about, I think, 80,000 euros a year. You, of course,
Everybody gets the same amount.
and at the end, that's a very good question. At the end, Leon asks, do you all get the same amount? Indeed, our King Willem Alexander and I will get the same old age pension when we reach the pensionable age. Yeah, we all get the same.
Is there also a difference between? Are there any types of pension you can get from the AOW?
It is the types of pensions you can get are on the next slide as presented right here. As you can see, we have a pension for people who live alone, and we have a pension for people who live together. If you live together, you will, when you reach the pensionable age, you will receive a pension which is 50% of the minimum wage. This is always a bit confusing. What we mean by this is, let's say you were insured a full period, 50 years. You get 100% pension. But this 100% pension, if you live together, you receive, and you reach the pensionable age, you're the pensioner, you receive 50% of the minimum wage, which is about the pension amounts, they are here on the slide, is about 800 euros a month. A gross, this is the gross amount. And when you live alone, you get 70% of the minimum wage, which is about 1,100 euros every month. And I see a question.
My wife is American. I am Dutch. So do I count as living together, or do I count as living alone?
Well, as the gentleman asks, I have the Dutch nationality. Dutch nationality, and I'm married. My wife is American. Are we regarded as living together? Well, you're talking about your wife, so I hope she's still sitting next to you. So I hope you're living together, and you regard it as living together. You regard it as a couple. Now, it could be that you are entitled to a Dutch AOW pension because at the past you have lived or worked in the Netherlands after your, what will it be, 16th, 17th birthday. So you'll be entitled to an AOW pension over the years you were residing in the Netherlands. And your partner, at the end, when she reaches the pensionable age, she will get nothing from the Netherlands if she never worked or lived in the Netherlands. Yeah. But you will be regarded as living together. Another question. The gentleman asked, does it matter if you have the dual nationality? That doesn't matter. You're entitled to an old age pension. Either you have the Dutch nationality, the US nationality, whatever. We pay out in about 140 countries to, a lot of different nationalities. So that doesn't matter. No. And I think I saw a third. No more questions. What it says, here we also have, so you receive an AOW pension. It also knows this top-up, which is an extra the government introduced quite recently. And this top-up, it used to be one amount, 25 guilders every month. And now it's linked to the percentage of your AOW pension. So if you receive 100%, you receive 25 guilders. And if you receive 50%, you receive half of this top-up.
Okay, about this living together thing, maybe it's my turn to explain something about that, because there's a lot of mistakes about the Dutch way of this definition of sharing a household, which is very complex in the Netherlands. It's about two adults who share accommodation, but they also have to be there has to be a kind of mutual care. So, for instance, you're a married couple, so that obviously leads to a married rate of pension. But for instance, also two brothers or two sisters or two people of the same gender could share a household, and this sharing a household is something different of most countries who only recognize a marital status. So this is also one of the things our team is checking upon, not only in the Netherlands but also abroad. So we actually do house calls to see whether or not people are living together and if they are receiving the rate, which is a married rate for people who live together.
And Leon, I see two other criteria or two things mentioned there: no first degree and commercial relationship. Could you explain that?
When you, for instance, live with your mother or your daughter, or so first degree relationships, then it's not considered as sharing a household for the AOW. Another thing that is excluded is a commercial relationship. So if you rent out a room to another adult and it's all written down and there's a contract, then it's considered as a commercial relationship and it doesn't affect the rate, your single rate pension.
Okay.
Is that clear? Because it might be very complex. Yeah. So when you apply for a pension, I think it's very good to understand that sometimes the Dutch definition of sharing a household is something completely different than it could be here for SSA, for instance.
Perhaps go to the next slide, Martin, and then this is we also mentioned this. If you're curious about how you are registered with the SVB, you can either go to our website and use your DigiD, but I can imagine that a lot of you don't have a DigiD. You can also go to our website and there's a PDF form which you can use to ask how you are known to the SVB, because we have access to the registration of everybody who lived or worked or whatever in the Netherlands, so we can inform you that well, in our system we see that you were registered for so many years of insurance in the Netherlands. So that could be interesting. I see a question over there.
Yes, you were mentioning about people that were living in Holland, but what if that person has a different nationality?
The lady here in the audience asks, you're mentioning people who are living in the Netherlands, but what if you have a different nationality? What if you don't have the Dutch nationality? That doesn't make a difference. As long as you're a resident of the Netherlands, you have to be a formal resident of the Netherlands, not if you're on vacation or whatever. If you're a resident, it's not important whether or not you have the Dutch nationality. Hilbert? Yeah, you like to add something?
No, actually, I have a question concerning this.
Oh,
Somebody who lives in the Netherlands but has worked in the United States asks where she should apply and how she should apply for the Dutch pension. The answer is you can always turn to the SVB office nearest to your location, and they will take in the application, the application, and then it will be passed on to Dublin, to the FBU, which is the office that works on behalf of the SSA for people that live in Europe, Americans that are in Europe and want to apply for their pension.
So we'll come to that, because we're going to inform you how to apply for an AOW pension. But people who live in the Netherlands, they can go to their nearest SVB office in the Netherlands, and at the end they will fill in the application forms needed, and they will forward it to what Hilbert mentioned, the Federal Benefit Unit. It's sort of a forepost of Social Security Administration in Baltimore. It's situated in Dublin, and they fill in all the data and send it. They finally send it to Baltimore. But that's the situation for people who live in the Netherlands. But it's regardless of nationality. Yeah. I think we're going to talk about Yeah, the agreement itself and how to apply for a pension. First of all, the agreement itself, and it's important to mention. I will ask Martin to give us the next slide. Yeah, oh, it's here. Because a lot of people ask us, why do we have to deal with Social Security Administration? We don't like that. We don't like to go to a local Social Security office to apply for an AOW pension. Well, I have to. You have to. We are partners since November 1990. And because we are partners, because there is a bilateral social security agreement between our two countries, we pay out the full AOW pension to all pensioners living in the US. Without an agreement, you would still be entitled to a pension, but we would only, it goes in too much details, but we would only pay out the safe part of the AOW pension. For instance, I said this, the rate of a single pensioner for a single pensioner is 70%. How do we check that you're a single, that you're living alone? We won't be able to check that without the help of the Social Security Administration to verify certain facts. We would only pay out 50%. So with a lot of, well, we have some countries to whom we pay, to which we pay a pension. If we don't have a bilateral agreement, we wouldn't pay out the full amount of the AOW pension. We wouldn't pay out survivors' pensions. We wouldn't pay out child benefits, etc. So be a little grateful for this Social Security Administration and the role of the Social Security Administration in Baltimore. Leon, because you made note of it, we met them last Thursday and they explained once again why it is so important to have this agreement. It's what we call a totalization agreement, because I'm going to ask you, you have to have quarters of. Can you explain how it's here in the United States?
Well, normally that's what I found out in the meeting we had this week. You have to be covered for 40 quarters to apply. So if you don't have the full 40 coverage of 40 quarters, for instance, you only have 20, then the insurance period in the Netherlands is totalized with the 20 periods here. Summing up, for instance, to this 40 quarters, and then you get even the SSA pension without being fully covered by the 40 quarters. So you need at least 6 quarters here in the USA for eligible for this totalization of the periods.
So that's quite important. This bilateral agreement covers more than only our old age pensions. They also deal with applicable legislation. So, for instance, when people send, I heard the headquarters of Philips is here in Boston, and it could turn out that a lot of employees who were sent from the Netherlands to Boston to work here for 2 or 3 years, they can stay insured in the Netherlands because of the agreement. And it makes it quite easy for Philips. So they send out people to the United States while they stay insured in the Netherlands. So they deal with, that's what we call applicable legislation. But it also deals with employees, benefits, etc., etc. It's a wide range of Social Security laws with which this bilateral agreement is all about. I saw somebody, raising a hand,
You used the term totalization of
Yeah, totalization of insurance periods. With totalization, we mean that without an agreement, what Leon just told you, you have to be qualified, you have to have 6 quarters of coverage, but then to have to be entitled to it SSA pension, you have to have 40 quarters of coverage. those 40 quarters of coverage could also be periods of insurance in the Netherlands could be totalized within those 40 quarters of coverage. Am I clear? So you can count the years that you were insured in the Netherlands as being insured in the United States.
Ultimately, it means that when you have an agreement with the requirements, then you get the full pension of the Netherlands and the full pension of the
Not really. No, not really. You could say that they have a threshold here in the United States with its 6 quarters of coverage and its 40 quarters of coverage, but its threshold is solved by having the agreement. So you can also totalize periods of insurance to fulfill those 6 or 40 quarters of coverage, but you're still the height of your pension is dependent on the years of insurance either here in the United States or in the Netherlands. So it's not that you get the full amount of pension from the Netherlands and the full amount. That could never be the case. It's always linked to the years of insurance in either the Netherlands or the States. But it makes you qualified for those pensions. Is it almost clear? Perhaps another question will make it more. I see a lot of the lady here in front. Yeah, that's those 6 quarters are only for the SSA, and as you have never worked in the United States, probably we have a slide about that, and the SSA corrected us last Thursday. You probably won't be entitled to a U.S. Social Security pension, probably because they know certain pensions which are linked to. For instance, when you're married, they are linked to your husband. So they have a variety of pensions, but in general, you won't be entitled to a U.S. pension because you never worked in the United States. No. The lady also asked, would it affect my Dutch pension? No. You're mentioning I worked for 22 years in the Netherlands, and so generally you would receive 44% of AOW pension. Yeah, the lady will come to you. We'll answer all questions. The lady over there.
Hi, in March 2019, I'm going to apply for Social Security. However, 6 months later, I'm eligible for AOW. Should I combine both of them and inform them about this Social Security when I go to Social Security? Maybe they can do both. All the paperwork
Yeah.
at the same time, or?
I think we'll get to that.
Yeah. We'll get to that later. Yeah, we'll get to that in the next slide. But in general, you do that both. So when you start applying for a U.S. pension, Social Security, you already mentioned that you lived or worked in the Netherlands. It's one of the questions on the application form. So you will inform them already, and they will note that. And well, we'll come to that later. Yeah.
Well, I was told by the AOW that I should start the process in August.
Yeah, we all always advise our clients, our future clients, to apply for a pension at least 6 months before the pensionable age. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Does the amount of AOW impact the amount of Social Security that you would receive? And I ask this because there's some other situations in the U.S. if you have a city or state pension, you get another type of pension, and they sort of, they don't want you to basically, pull 2 pensions at the same time, or not you don't get the full amount. So is there any deduction of Social Security because you get AOW?
The lady asks, windfall elimination provision. Is it the windfall elimination? The lady asks, if I receive a Dutch AOW pension from the Netherlands, could that in any form be influence my state pension? Huh? That's the question. Or Social Security. It could. Yeah, it could. It could. And we have a slide about, we have information about that. And we're so lucky to have Maria van der Bos here in the audience because you're an expert on taxes. She frowns a little bit, but but I'm sure. But we have a slide about that, so we'll come back to that later.
I've been paying my voluntary contributions to the Social Verzekeringsbank ever since I moved to the US. Does that have any impact on how things are headed up? I also have well over 40 quarters in this country. So how does that?
Yeah, the gentleman here asked. We haven't mentioned it, but a lot of people decided when they left the Netherlands to stay insured voluntarily. That's what you did. So the gentleman asked, would that influence my US pension? Well, it means that you're still paying contributions for this voluntarily AOW pension, so you will receive perhaps the full amount of AOW pension because you always stayed insured and then on a voluntarily basis for the AOW pension. So you get the full amount or a higher amount than you would have received if you left the Netherlands and didn't do anything. And I don't think it will influence your US state pension because they are not allowed to, the years over which you paid voluntarily contributions, they're not allowed to deduct that from your US pension because you did that on a voluntarily basis. Is that an answer to your question? Yeah. Okay. Next, this is just a slide to remind you, is anybody living on the Bahamas? I don't think so, here in the audience. But it could be, while we're streaming this, we say hello to the Bahamas, Barbados, Bermuda, Cayman Islands, and West Samoa. You can't stop watching because you're not under... Well, anyway, you could still be entitled to an AOW pension, but not under the bilateral agreement. Yeah. And then we go to perhaps a very important part, the administrative procedures, because they can be tough. We realize that. As we said, we are partners, and we're glad because Thursday we call them friends because we're in this business a long time ago already, more than 27 years. Social Security Administration, and we really know they do their utmost to be sure that you at the end will receive your Dutch pension. As I said, claims are processed via SSA, and we come to that in more detail later, because you either go to their website. We're getting modern. We're getting modern more modern every year. They have a very good website, as we have. So either go to their website, go to a local Social Security office, and apply for pension. So that's the answer to your question. Did you go to a local Social Security office? How did you apply for a pension? Via the website or?
Well, I'm not eligible yet. I'm eligible when you're born between certain years in the 50s. You're not able to retire until
Okay.
66.
Yeah, right.
And then, for the AOW, 66 and 4 months.
Yeah.
Or 6 months.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm asking this question. Maybe I can catch two birds in.
Yeah. In one end, the lady asked. You already asked this question. How should I apply? Could I combine the two applications? And you can. Yeah. You can. So you either go to the website, and there on the website you have to fill in a question that you were living in the Netherlands in the past, and they will notify that, and perhaps and then they will send you another application form. Yeah.
Everybody knowledgeable at the Social Security office?
This lady asked if everybody is knowledgeable at the social. To be honest, no, Yeah, it's the next one. Let me see. What does it say? Is it the next one? No. But you can imagine, even at the SCB in the Netherlands, sometimes a client comes to a Dutch office and they lived in whatever country, and we wouldn't know what would be the effect of living in another country. Same counts for the US. It's a huge country. They have about 1,500 regional social security offices. So it really could be the case that they don't notice that. So that in the next slides, we will really stipulate that if you claim for a Dutch pension, monitor that claim. Really monitor that claim. You always receive what is on this slide is go to this is their website, ssa.gov. You can find how to claim for a Dutch old age pension. Do that 6 months before. Combine that with your US application, and here are the websites mentioned on this, and I think on the next slide, this is for people who were insured in the Netherlands but also are insured in the US. So who worked in the US, who also receive a US state pension. There are two possibilities. Either go to the website, fill in a form. You will get a receipt, and they provide you with a claim, which proves the receipt will prove that you filed for a claim. And then, very important, answer the questions about your insurance periods. Be as precise as possible. And of course, we know that you don't know all the details anymore, but be as precise as possible. And be aware, just what I told, there are 1,500 Social Security offices here in the US. Sometimes they just don't realize that you could be entitled to that Dutch pension. So we always advise clients that if you haven't heard anything within 6 months, go back. You have this receipt. Probably this receipt will have a number, an identification number. So make a call to the Social Security office and ask what happened to your application. I see a question.
I like the idea of applying at the same time, but I hope that applying that is not required. Why? Because in the US, the pensionable age is variable, like in Holland, formula. But in the US, I can ask for my Social Security as of age 62 or as of age 70, completely decoupled, essentially. So I don't want to trigger starting my pension if I'm not ready for it in the SSA space, but I am ready for it in the Dutch space.
Yeah. But may I first repeat this question? Because oh, sorry. Yeah, you had to add some.
It's the same question, but a little because I heard that the SSA will not accept my application unless I apply for Social Security also. Is that correct?
Yeah, that would be a problem.
That would be the problem. Yeah. In my case, I'm trying to defer my Social Security benefits until I'm age 70. So is that going to impact the IRA?
That's an interesting one. Now, the gentlemen here in the audience, they ask, first of all, in the US, you can either apply already for a pension, for a state pension at the age of 62, but you could also postpone it till the age of 70, which would mean you would miss the application for an AOW pension. Now, I have to look at my colleague at my right-hand side, Leon. And you get the difficult questions. In both cases, because when you apply for a state pension at the age of 62, we would say, hey, you're too early. Go home and come back when you reach the pensionable age in the Netherlands. In that case, I would advise to contact our office in Groningen. We give all the details later. Same for your question. I'm not going to apply for a U.S. state pension until I reach the age of 70. If that is the case, be aware that you could be entitled to this Dutch AOW pension earlier. Well, I can assure you, you are entitled to a Dutch state pension AOW much earlier. So be aware in that those cases, always contact our office in Groningen. And they can advise you, they can still advise you either to go to a local Social Security office, or they will send you the application forms directly. So it's those are two very good questions because they're in fact exemptions to the rule, and in those cases we would advise you contact our office in Groningen. Maria, yeah. Oh, wait, Maria, is it possible that you use the microphone to tell this? Because it's quite interesting information. And you'll be live also throughout the country. Perhaps you sit over there because you're in the camera, and we hand over the microphone to you.
I was just telling that since January 2016, there's some change in the Social Security, and that is called deemed filing. So in the past, you could apply for the Social Security and then just let your spouse start the Social Security and your own Social Security defer it. That's not possible anymore. So if you apply for Social Security or AOW or whatever, if it all goes to the Office of Baltimore, you have to apply for everything. You can't defer a part. So if you wait for the US to get more, like 130% of your, you have to also wait for your Dutch pension. Well, you have to do the math. You have to do the math, what's best for you. Yeah.
That would also mean that you can't take Social Security at an earlier age. You can do that from 62. You're not eligible.
I think that would be...
So why couldn't you do that?
I think it would be possible if you start at 62 because you're not eligible for the Dutch, so you can take the American, the US, and then when you're eligible for the but if you start, you will receive everything you're eligible for. You can say, I defer my spouse or defer, yeah. So. I don't know about that. That's a question for you. I don't know if they do that.
No, we only go back for 1 year after your claim. For 1 year, so it's 68. Then you'll be fine, I think, because then we can go back to 67. What? Not more than 1 year.
Yeah. So the question was, when I forgot to apply for my pension, and after 5 years, I think, I had to apply for Dutch AOW. In general, we only go back for 1 year. There are very severe criteria in which we can go back longer, but you could say in general we only go back for 1 year. Yeah, Maria, thank you. So it's quite necessary you're here. We're very glad you are here. Leon, what is more? Yeah.
Any paperwork on this? Because everything is going so fast. I don't have time to write all these websites down.
No, we could.
I did download this. I don't know if this helps. This form here.
That's from the Social Security.
Is that from AOW?
From our website, yeah. Okay, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of that in here, but we could always mail this presentation to you. Yeah. Or put it on the website. We also asked our embassy in Washington to put it on there. They have a Facebook, and so they can put it on their website as well. But I'm looking at the chairman of the Netherlands America Foundation, Jos Scheffelaar. And Jos, how can we?
We will email, we know who you are.
Oh, okay.
We will email the presentation to you.
Okay.
Also, this is being recorded, so if you want to hear this all again tomorrow or
Yeah.
a month from now, it will still be there.
Yeah, yeah. But you will receive, so you will receive this presentation. Yeah, yeah. So we made a slight distinction between whether or not you are insured here in the States. So you worked in the States, and you can apply for a U.S. state pension. If not, if you never worked in the United States, in general, it says how you. Here it's you will not be entitled to U.S. Retirement pension under your own record, and that's what's been told us last Thursday, under your own record. But it could be the case that you are entitled to a U.S. state pension because of marriage or certain other circumstances, but under your own records, no. Then you still have to go to your Social Security office to apply for this Dutch pension. But because you're not known, probably not known at SSA registration, be aware, follow this application. So I stipulated once again, follow this application, and if you have any doubts, you can always contact our office in Groningen, and all the details are on this slide. A question.
So in this case, if you haven't worked here and you want to apply for your AOW, should you do that the moment you're eligible in the Netherlands for AOW?
Yes, yeah. The lady is asking, when I never worked in the United States, when should I apply for this Dutch AOW pension? Yes, you should apply it here at a Social Security office. Do that 6 years before you... 6 years. 6 months. Thank you. 6 months before you reach the pensionable age. Yeah. Yeah. So really go to our website and check when you are entitled to that AOW pension. I see another... Yeah.
Do you have to go always through the SSA to get the Dutch pension? Can you do that on the website to SVB?
No, you should always go to a local Social Security office or go to their website. Yeah. Only in... Yeah. Well, there are a few exemptions, but Maria, you gave information about that, but I would say in general, yes, you always have to go to Social Security administration. Yeah.
I got my AOA at 65, 6 years ago now, and I did it all separately.
Yeah, there are always exemptions. The gentleman says, well, I'm applied for my old age pension 6 years ago, and I did everything, I think, directly with our office in Groningen. Oh, well, okay, you didn't do it. Well, our message would be always go to Social Security Administration. Yeah, and if you don't hear anything of them, do call them. But at the end, you could also contact our office in Groningen. They will always help you, and could help you tracing your application. So they will always help you. Oh. Yeah. Email address is right down there below. Yeah, it says international.aowgroningen@svb.nl. But we'll send the presentation to all of you. Other questions?
If I move to the most interesting phase in
Yeah.
How do you deal with fluctuations in exchange rate?
Oh, I'm going to my financial advisor, and he's sitting right next to me.
Well, I think that Hilbert also has some. Now there are more questions about this one, or not?
There was another question about what exchange rate.
Wait. You need a microphone. Donald Duck, huh? Yeah. You go with over the money.
There was another question about what exchange rate is being used, and there's a couple of questions about people asking whether it's more beneficial to have the money sent onto a Dutch bank account, if that's possible, which it is. You can have your AOW sent to a Dutch bank account. If you have it in America, then it depends on when we pay, because if it's around the first day of the month, then we use the rate at the first day. Otherwise, it's around the 15th. Yes, it fluctuates. It fluctuates. If you have a very low amount of Dutch pension, you could also choose to have it being paid once a year or per quarter. All right? Okay.
I heard that we have assets on a Dutch account, and if you're a U.S. person, that the IRS can raise taxes.
That would be a question for if somebody has assets in the United States, you say, or in Holland? In Holland. That it would be of influence to the American, for the American tax, for the IRS. I think that should be answered by. Maybe you should take the phone, the mic.
I think that's from the FBAR that you have to declare all your foreign bank accounts, but I'm not completely sure how you connect that to the Social Security.
Well, it's money that you have on a Dutch account.
Yeah, but that's if you have, you only have to declare it on if you have less than more than 10,000 on the FBAR, the form FinCEN. That's another form that is the Ministry of Treasury. And if you have more than 50,000, then you have to file a form with the IRS. Yeah.
But it's not to be taxed, but to keep track.
Yeah, it's just it's just for information. It's not to, unless you get some money, you earn money on it, then you have to declare all the interest and dividend, everything. Yeah, yeah. Right.
You should also know that the AOW pension, the amount we pay out, is not income tested. Huh? So if you have other assets, other income, or what, it won't influence your AOW pension. Question. Yes.
Very low, like 2 cents. Yes, 0.02. Yeah, very low.
But then I'll ask Hilbert. Now you see who is our financial advisor. Because I heard we pay out the pension. We pay out the pension to the Citibank, and the Citibank transfers the pension to your bank here. But that could differ. Some banks do ask money for those payments. That could differ. Is that true?
Well, that you must, I really won't be able to say that.
Okay. Because sometimes we advise clients to take another bank because their local banks asks, especially in some countries, they do. They ask a lot of money for receiving the AOW pension. They ask a lot of money for this service. So then we advise them to go to another bank. Am I right, Leon?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's comparable when I go here to an ATM. Sometimes I have to pay $1.50, or sometimes I have to $3, or so. It really depends on the account with the bank you have. So, but we ourselves don't charge. Only 2 cents. So, and of course, every month the exchange rates will differ. So.
Any more? Yeah.
What happens if I have the Santander Bank because that's a European bank?
The lady asks is if it We're not going to advertise for any bank here, but you ask, would it be wise to have the Santander Bank because it's a Spanish? Is it Spanish bank, European bank? I don't think that would make a difference, but it could be that some banks levy some money for this service. I don't know, so be aware of that. The gentleman here in front.
My question is very complicated for myself. I hope you can answer. So I was born in the Netherlands. I studied here, then into the military. My parents moved to Indonesia. I lived there for 7 years, came back again, finished my study. And then I had a couple of small jobs, but didn't pay much toward the AOW probably. And then I moved abroad. Would I still be eligible?
The gentleman here asks, wait, I have to interview you. You were born in the Netherlands. You have the Dutch nationality, and am I right? And you were raised. When did you leave the Netherlands? At what age? 38, so yeah, 62. Yeah. Well, in fact, this presentation is worthwhile for you. Did you apply for? You never. Oh, we have a millionaire amongst us. You get a lot. No, but yeah.
We pay you directly at the.
No, but you would be entitled to pension for the years between your. Now it would be. No, you would be entitled when you were 15 already, because we go back a long time with you, being 80 now. So you were from your 15th birthday until you left at what age? So that was like 30. You were at what age did you leave the Netherlands?
62, 63.
Yeah. So 20 age. 25. So let's say you were insured between your 15th and your 25th birthday. So 10 years, you were entitled for 20% of the AOW pension. Yeah. So you were entitled to, yeah. And you are still. You can still get my purse. Yeah. No, you're still entitled to a pension. If you now apply for a pension, so we would go back a year, but it would be worthwhile. No. Nor from any other country. Yeah, nor from any other country. If you also worked, let's say, in the Netherlands, and then in Germany, and in Belgium, and then you move to the States, you get pensions from different countries as of the Netherlands. Yeah.
Second question on that is that should I apply here to the Social Security or should I go to Groningen?
Well, in your case, I would make an exception, and am I right? I would make an exception and go directly to Groningen, but because for them it would be very difficult to acknowledge, hey, this gentleman is already 80. Go directly to Groningen, you will be, yeah, they are archived here, and so yeah, there would be. Any more questions about the administrative procedures? So in general, well, our message is always go to Social Security here in the United States. I see one question though.
Will you be asked to provide documentation of when you left and how, or what kind of documentation or proof should you be able to provide? Because I have been a student. I was 26 when I left. So and I remember we truly, I truly emigrated. But I have kids and oh my goodness, I don't know if I can ever find that back. So
Yeah.
we asked to provide certain documentation because I read somewhere to be eligible for the digital ID that you have to be registered in, you have to be on the register of non-residents, an RNI. I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
Does it exist? Do you, or
It-
Google kept track of that?
The lady here asks, do I have to show any documents and add any documents with my application? In general, the answer would be yes. If you have those documents, please add them to your. It makes it easier. It makes it easier for Social Security Administration. It makes it easier for us. If you don't have it anymore, no problem. And it's not that we believe you on your blue eyes, but in general, dates like when you left the Netherlands are in the system. When you arrived here in the States, it's in the system. So yeah, exactly. For instance, yeah, and then we take the dates which are mentioned on your green card. So if you have the documents, do add them to your application. If you don't have them, well, your green card is also a document, a very important document. I thought I forgot some. There was another question. No, that's the answer. Another question.
I'm here on behalf of my mother. My father was born in Holland and lived there, went to war, lived there to the 30s, moved to Canada, married my mother, so she became Dutch. They moved back to Holland for under a year. And then he had to lose his Dutch nationality when he became Canadian. Then he applied 3 years ago, became a Dutch national citizen, but unfortunately passed away earlier this year. So I don't believe he ever applied for the AOW from his time when he was living there and working in Holland. And you mentioned earlier about the criteria for survivor's benefits. Is that something that a mother should consider if she's eligible for?
Very difficult and long question. Very complicated situation. Yeah. I'll summarize it. Yeah. So it's about eligibility of your mother, who has been married, of course, to your father. He already passed away. Now you're asking if there's a possibility to a survivor's benefit, or even if there is a eligibility for an AOW pension for your mother. Skip the part of all the nationalities involved, Canadian, Dutch, or American. It has nothing to do with the AOW, so no concern of that. For your mother, the eligibility for the AOW pension, it just depends on how long she was a resident in the Netherlands. So she could still get that AOW pension. I think she already has the pensionable age herself. Yeah. So survivors' benefits, they stop in the Netherlands when the person is on the pensionable age. So there would be no entitlement from Social Security to a survivor's benefit for her. And there could only be a pension for her on the basis of her own periods of insurance in the Netherlands. Yeah, clear?
From being under a year, even though she's a Dutch citizen. And through my father's working there, she's not entitled.
No, not anymore. No. That could be the case 20 years ago, but then he should be passed away 20 years ago, but I don't think that's the case. But no, at this moment there will be no pension rights.
Just for my knowledge, survivor benefits, does that mean the WNW?
Yeah, the ANW. Yeah.
And also widows. Yeah, widowers and widows pension, and even orphan pension is also. Yeah. Okay, a little look at the time. Jos, do we have about 1.5 hours before the West Coast falls asleep again? I don't know. We have a very disappointing slide about the DigiD code. We received a lot of questions about DigiD. And here are the criteria under which you can apply for a DigiD. And we know that you can go, for instance, you can go to our embassy in Washington to apply for a DigiD. Either you can apply for a DigiD at Schiphol Airport in the Netherlands, and you can apply for it when you start receiving an AOW pension. But in a lot of cases, for people living abroad, you can still not apply for a DigiD code. We hope that will change in the near future because the Dutch government is very well aware of the fact, the importance of in fact, everybody who has a relationship with the Netherlands to be able to enter Dutch websites to get information or to give information. But until now, it's only via very strict criteria under which you can apply for a DigiD code. We cannot change that in a very near future, but we will hope that will change in the near future. Any questions about DigiD codes? 2 slides about that. You can also, of course, find the information on our website. And now we come to a very tricky part, and that's the tax agreement. And we're very glad that Maria is amongst us. And this is what we learned from also our partners in Baltimore. The USA has a variety of taxes, and the most common are federal, state, or local taxes. Federal, what is it said? Federal, state, or local taxes. And the U.S. tax agreement is not applicable to state taxes. It only deals with the nationwide taxes. And states may decide themselves what taxes to levy and how much. But I guess you're much more familiar with this than I am. But we also hear, that's the next slide, but here it's also our AOW is only taxed in the Netherlands. But then it's nationwide. What local taxes do with your AOW, I look at Maria, could that be a difference? Oh, well, I'm glad Maria, yeah.
Massachusetts in general follows the Dutch tax agreements of the tax treaties, and I don't think that Massachusetts taxes Social Security taxes. So if you have AOW, which falls on the Social Security tax, then they won't tax that. So Massachusetts, well, New Hampshire, I don't know if there are people here from New Hampshire. They don't have the state tax, so they're lucky. And then Florida is the same. There's no state taxes. So Massachusetts has state tax, but doesn't tax the Social Security. I think that's. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, Maria, while you're here, we're going to interview you. Please stay seated here in front of the camera. Do you have any questions about the taxes? Because I think it's the next slide, which deals with the windfall elimination provision, which is quite. And I see some questions appearing over there. The windfall elimination provision. The previous one, we go back to the. Well, no, not. Yeah. Wait.
Yeah, that's one of the parts of the totalization agreements. There are 2 parts of it. It's that the first part is that it's a dual agreement, so there's only tax once. And it's taxed every income in the US, every dollar, every cent is income, unless there's a provision in the tax treaty or in the code. But yeah. Yeah, it's if you file a 1040, there's a line where you enter your Social Security, and you have to half of your. I think there's a slide about it. Isn't like how it's taxed. Half of the Social Security and all your other income. If you file a single, if that's less than 25,000, it's not taxable. If it's more than 25,000, it's taxable, and if it's above, I'm not quite sure about, I think it's 44,000, then the Social Security can be taxed up to 85% of it can be taxable. So there's always a very small amount, 15% that's not taxable, the rest will be taxable for the Social Security. And if you have AOW and Social Security, it's combined. Yeah.
Would it make sense to pay it in Holland? Because if you have no other income in Holland, they tax you a small amount, and then you don't have to pay it because you're filing here. It's not taxed in Holland, so file here. They pay more tax.
Yeah, but you're probably a resident in the United States, or are you a citizen? If you're a resident, you have to declare your worldwide income. So you have to tell what's coming in the Netherlands and in wherever. So then you have to tell them here that you have that income. So it's income and it's taxable.
Yeah, but it says it's only taxed in Holland, only taxable in the Netherlands.
You are declaring your income. You have to, as a resident.
You can't leave it out. You can pay in the Netherlands and then say, oh, I received in the Netherlands and it's income here, so you have double tax.
And then I can
You don't want to be double taxed.
Can deduct the tax I paid in Holland here.
That's with the foreign tax credits. Yeah, sometimes it can, but it depends on the tax treaty. In some tax treaty, they say it's taxed in the Netherlands or it's taxed in the USA. So and if this is taxed in the USA, you can pay your tax in the Netherlands, but then you have to pay taxes here as well.
But I thought the agreement said that any social security payments are only taxed in the state who pays them and cannot be taxed in the other state where they live.
What we have trouble with is only taxable in the Netherlands. That's a very strong.
That's very, yeah, and then, but well, as high East Coast or West Coast, I understood we get a lot of questions here about taxes, Hilbert? And the problem is they cannot hear the questions asked via the audience, so we really have to repeat it. A lot of questions about taxes, and I can imagine that it differs from state to state. So it's very difficult to give a general answer. This slide says we have a bilateral tax agreement between our two countries. And that states that on a nationwide, so nationwide, the Netherlands and the United States wide, an AOW pension from the Netherlands is taxed in the Netherlands. But it could still be, and I'm looking at Maria, who is here as a tax expert, it could still be the case that a state could levy taxes over your complete world income, for instance. Could that be the case? So, wait, I'll give the microphone again to Maria.
Well, if you're a resident in the United States or you're a citizen, you have to, all your income, your worldwide income is taxable, everything from everywhere. So if this is an agreement that it's taxable in the Netherlands, and what you said, it won't be here, then you can take the tax credit. So you have to add up your income, your Social Security income, what you receive in the Netherlands, you have to add it to your income here.
But mine is not taxed in the Netherlands. So it's only taxed here.
But it's like everything is income, even if there's a double, and there's a difference between the pension and the Social Security.
My question is, if you have a tax because it says are only taxable in the Netherlands, if that is stated in the agreement, then they cannot tax it again here.
No, I think the agreement says it's not taxable on two sides.
Yeah.
Only
Yeah.
taxable in all the Netherlands or in Europe.
Yeah. In most tax treaties, one of the articles of and this is the totalization agreement, it says that Social Security is taxable in the Netherlands. But the income you get from it, you have to declare that in the US. And if you say you pay taxes in the Netherlands, you can take a foreign tax credit for it.
No, I'm not paying. I'm not paying any tax in the Netherlands.
So you say you don't pay anything. Then you have to add your income to your income here, and you pay.
I declared in the US,
Yeah.
I pay tax over it. And the question is, if I haven't taxed in the Netherlands, then according to this agreement, they cannot tax it again here.
only taxable in the Netherlands, if that's what
Yeah.
the agreement says.
I think we should take this on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
because it's one
Yeah, I'll come back to after. Is that okay?
Okay, we'll come back to that question. I see another question from the audience.
I'm unfamiliar with the term, the AOW top-up. What is that?
The hour, wait, we got some questions about that. The hour top-up was introduced some years ago, and some years ago it was introduced as an extra amount which you received above your old age pension, and it used to be an amount regardless of the percentage of your AOW pension. It was a regular amount of 25 euros every month. And that was changed. I don't know when it was changed. I think 2 years ago, I think in January 2015, but don't point me to that. It was changed, and now the maximum is 25 euros, but it's corresponding to your AOW percentage. So if you receive 100%, you get 25 euros. If you receive, let's say, half of it, 50%, you receive half of the top up. And that is, according to our information, that is taxed in the US. But I can imagine that taxes is always, it's a difficult issue even for us, because our tax treaty says you can be taxed over your AOW in 2 countries, but then again, so we tax the AOW pension in the Netherlands, but then again, it differs from state to state what the state does with a state tax. So if you have any questions, you can always contact our office in Groningen also, because they're quite familiar with these questions. And if not, they can ask our tax office, for instance. Yeah. I think the last slide deals with this windfall elimination provision. And here it says, a Dutch pension could affect your US benefit. And as we understood from SSA, as we understood from our office in Groningen, it all deals with if you have working periods, if you receive a pension from the Netherlands, which is only based on the periods that you lived in the Netherlands, that's a different case than if you receive a pension from the Netherlands, which is based on periods that you worked in the Netherlands. If you worked in the Netherlands, that part of the pension could affect your US benefits. And that's what the windfall elimination provision is all about. It even made, what we heard from people, it even made people decide not to apply for a Dutch pension because they know, well, I receive a pension because I worked in the Netherlands, it could affect my US benefit. Are you familiar with that, or sorry? The gentleman asked here, how do we calculate how it would affect your US benefit? I have to be honest, I can't give you the answer. I'm looking at Maria. Maria, do you know how that could affect your pension? How do you calculate that? Oh, wait.
I got a flyer from the Social Security about the windfall elimination provision, and on the back there's the list with the, yeah, you can see it from there, I can show you later, with the percentage which will be deducted from. So in some cases it might be not, yeah, just, yeah, to...
No, we mean AOW pension, the Dutch AOW pension. Gentleman over there. Okay, the gentleman says that if you worked if you work for 30 years in the US, it wouldn't affect your US. Okay, it's okay, and Maria has here indeed years of substantial earnings. Well, we have some information about the windfall elimination provision here, so you can look at it after this presentation.
There is no windfall. It's only for pensions related to work.
Yeah, that's what we understood. The gentleman says there's no windfall if it's only related, if you receive a pension only related to living, to living in the Netherlands. Then it won't affect your U.S. benefit. But yeah.
That's a question for you. So is it possible to only apply for the years you lived in the Netherlands and did not work in the Netherlands because there's no windfall elimination?
Well, the AOW itself is a residence-based pension. So, in the end, whether you worked or not, if you lived that period or were a resident in the Netherlands, it is always based on your residence. So you can keep out of the discussion over a work-related period. It's based on your residence in the Netherlands. Only in a case that, for instance, you lived in Germany, but you worked in Holland, then it could be another issue. Because then it's purely based, your insurance in the Netherlands is then purely based not on residency, but on the period of work in the Netherlands. But I think for most of the people here, it's a residence-based pension.
There's an IRS statement about that. I don't know because I had to deal with it too, and my tax advisor found that.
Okay, so the gentleman.
On the IRS website about the windfall.
Okay, and
Is named as Canada and some other countries.
all right.
Okay.
There's a gentleman in the audience who says there's an RSA, and RSA stands for Internal Revenue Service. Thank you, Internal Revenue Service, and they also have a website on which you can find this information. Okay, so there's an IRS, Internal Revenue Service. Thank you. With a website with information about the windfall provision. Yeah. Now this difficult this difficult subject leads us to the end of the presentation, and I go to Hilbert because you received some questions. Perhaps you can look at the last. I give you the microphone and see if you need.
Well, Martin, most of the questions have been answered. One person asked, he was an expat for 5 years in New York, paying a lower amount of income tax, whether he could find his period of insurance back at the pensioenoverzicht. If he was sent out for a Dutch firm to New York, he should be able to find his information at mijnpensioenoverzicht.nl. If he was employed for an American company, he would have been excluded for that period of time for entitlement to AOW. So he'd get a cut of 2% per year he was working in New York for a New York firm. So that was one question. Another question about somebody who was in the military, but he was in the American military, married with a Dutch woman. And she asks whether he is entitled to any AOW because he lived in Holland. No, because he was employed for the U.S. military. He's not subject to Dutch legislation, so he's not entitled to any pension. And basically, all the other questions have been asked, have been answered by us, especially about whether the Dutch AOW is being taxed before it's being paid. All right, so that was it. I will personally answer people, all the people that asked anything. I will give them a personal reply.
Okay.
All right, back to you.
Okay. Well, then I think well, oh, one more question. Yeah.
That 50-year, and when did it start counting? When I first immigrated 30 years ago, they said it was 40 years, and depending on whether you worked all your life or something like that. But now it's a hard 50 years as of when you turn 17, or?
No, well, the gentleman asks about the years of insurance, how to reach the maximum, what the starting point, and that became a little bit difficult, the starting point, because it used to be from your 15th to your 65th, but now they are increasing the pensionable age. So you could better say, what's your pensionable age, deduct 50 years, and start from there.
And it doesn't matter whether you were studying.
It doesn't matter whether you were studying, when you were earning money or not, when you were still living with your parents, when you were studying, whatever. Yeah, as long as you're a resident of the Netherlands, you're insured. Yeah. Another question.
Many of us in this room are in the same predicament, and I think it would be helpful if we can somehow correspond, help each other out also, because we often have the same question: is it possible that we
Well,
can share email addresses?
I have a very. This is a very interesting question. The gentleman asks, well, we're here in the audience, and how could we assist each other? Now, my neighbor, he's perhaps not my financial advisor, but he invented a very interesting talk about it.
Well, it's not yet for this purpose, but well, we do encounter beneficiaries of ours here in the United States. Sometimes people who are already in the 80s or 90s and they are alone, single. They don't have much contact anymore with their family or relatives in the Netherlands. But they sometimes wonder, is there anybody near me here in the surrounding or into 20 kilometers who also is receiving an AOW pension? Well, this made us think, how could we get these people together? So we are, at the moment, at the SVB, thinking and building an application, an app, a smart app, for people just to make contact with each other who live in the same area. And of course, you have to do this voluntary, and you give your information, and we can let you know if there are people who also are on a Dutch benefit or under Dutch AOW, and you can contact the other person. So we are building an application, and maybe this is also a good idea for people who are not yet entitled for the AOW, but to use an app like this to get known of each other, of course, but also to share information. And also, we could push you information about, for instance, the claim of an AOW in the United States.
Yeah. It's under we're building. Yeah, it's under construction, but it's because of the international verification unit visiting all those clients throughout the country, and sometimes people are alone and would like to know whether their neighbors also invite. Yeah. So we're working on this app, but do contact each other. Huh? Of course, you can help each other by applying this pension. I think we come to the end, and if there are no more questions on behalf of Hilbert and Leon, Leon, you have to add.
Just one addition. We are also going to do a survey next year on the West Coast, so we'll be back, and maybe it's interesting that we. Yeah, sorry, and it's interesting maybe that we could be the case that we will contact NAF again. And so, if there are any more questions, and you could you could collect those questions for us. Yeah.
You know where to find
Yeah. Then we'll come back and do this again.
Well, any old how. On behalf of of my colleagues, but I think also on behalf of the audience, we would like to thank the chairman of the Netherlands America Foundation here, Jos Scheffelaar, to give us the floor this afternoon. And we're very grateful on behalf of the SVB. We're very grateful for that. Thank you very much.
Okay, I would like to thank the team here. It was a very good meeting. Just to the names or the request to share email addresses. That is like there are some privacy reasons, but if nobody opts out at this moment, I will share the addresses. Also to people in the field. So we will send out a copy of the presentation. It's also, there will be a recording of this session on YouTube. It may take a couple of hours for it to be there, but it will be there. I also, for people in Boston, I would like to point out that we have a Facebook group called appropriately NAF Boston, where we can share and you can share information. Thanks for being here. It was a pleasure, and I'm slowly beginning to understand this. So you did a good job. Thank you very much.